to robots delivering the future of mobility today. I have the pleasure to introduce our moderator, Andrew Ross Sorkin, financial columnist for the New York Times and co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box. Before we begin, please take a moment to silence your cell phones, and without further ado, Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming out this afternoon. What we're hoping to do over the next hour is to have a conversation, and we want this conversation to be as interactive as possible, so we will go to the audience, so I want you to start thinking of your questions even as we're beginning this conversation. But this is a conversation about the future of cars and vehicles, which of course touch our lives in so many different ways. And when you think out 10 years about where we are and what the future will look like, we talk about batteries, and you've probably heard of a guy named Elon Musk, and you've heard of what Toyota's doing, and there's so many people doing so many different interesting things. And I think you'll also be surprised at some of the things that this gentleman is doing that might even skew outside of what you normally think an automobile company will do. It is my privilege to introduce you to Simon Nagata. He is the CEO of Toyota's Engineering and Manufacturing. And before we start this conversation, there's a couple of videos that we have, and we want to show you one just to sort of tee up where we're going with this, if you could. As a little bit of an inspiration for the conversation, and it can go in so many different ways. What I'm hoping you can do, Simon, just to get us started and set the table, is tell us what our experience with cars is going to be like in 10 years. How are we going to fuel the car? What is it like inside the car? Are we actually going to even drive it ourselves? And what's going to be going on outside of the car?
Okay. Before answering to your question, I want to ask your patience. Since English is not my mother tongue, it may be difficult for you to understand what I try to mean. But since I prepared several videos, you may have a better understanding through videos. So with that, in 10 years, to be honest with you, the car you are going to drive may look very similar to what you are driving today, at least exterior, outside. But inside, cars will be equipped with many advanced technologies, which enables drivers have safer drive, greener drive, or more convenient drive. So that is what you are going to see in the next 10 years. And Toyota is going to launch our new power unit, which is fuel cell vehicle. We recently announced production model of fuel cell vehicle, and you can see the actual production model at our display site. So I would like to ask you to visit our display site.
So I actually just visited, before I got up here, I actually visited to look at this vehicle. It's pretty cool. It's a hydrogen fuel cell powered vehicle. The first one of its kind that is going to be on the roads in a meaningful way. It is exciting. It is somewhat controversial. There are a lot of issues around what the future looks like when it comes to powering vehicles. Why don't we show a brief video again, just to explain to everybody here who may be uninitiated, and I have to admit I was before I got involved in this panel, what a hydrogen fuel cell does and how it works and what it will ultimately mean. Take a look. Okay, that's what a hydrogen fuel cell is. There's a little bit of a science lesson for those of everybody here who's uninitiated. What's so cool about this, and I'm going to speak for you in a sec, but just for a moment,
Okay.
is that there's effectively no true carbon emission. There's no exhaust. It's just water. That's what it's vapor. And this has been a dream for so many people in the automotive industry and the environmental world, just broadly, that it really is a remarkable thing. However, this has been something people have been talking about for 20, 30 years and has been something that has never really been a reality. And now, to the extent that we have a vehicle, it is a reality. However, I want to challenge you for a moment, because as I mentioned in the beginning of this, we all hear often in the headlines about a gentleman named Elon Musk, who runs a company called Tesla. And Tesla, we should say, by the way, Elon Musk has been a partner of Toyota's historically, and he has a bias in this game because he is playing and doubling down and betting big on batteries. This is what he has to say about fuel cells. He says, as you probably know, I'm not the biggest fan of fuel cells. I call them fool cells. He calls them a load of rubbish, and he calls them a word that I'm not going to use because I believe that there's some, I don't know if there's any kids in here, but anyway, the initials are BS. So that's what he says. He says that this technology, as a technology, will never truly become a mass-scaled business. What do you say to Elon Musk?
Before making comment, I just want to tell you that I like Model S. I had a
The
chance
Tesla Model S.
Yeah, I had a chance to drive Roadster. Acceleration was huge. I became a big fan of Tesla electric vehicle. That's what I want to say first. The difference between fuel cell and Tesla's electric vehicle is power unit. We can say that Toyota's FCV is one of the electric motor-powered vehicle. But the big difference is the electricity is generated from our advanced fuel cell technology. In their case, they charge it to the battery. They use battery, which is electricity from the battery. Of course, performance of the vehicle, design of the vehicle is another factor for customers to be attracted. But there is a healthy competition in that segment, in sports car.
Has Toyota decided that they're making a bet on hydrogen fuel over batteries? I mean, you were the leaders when it came to the Prius, and frankly, this new design leverages and uses so much of what you put into the Prius to begin with. 10 years from now, will you be still producing battery-operated vehicles, or is it all moving into this other direction?
Actually, we are still producing electric vehicles, both in Japan and North America. RAV4 EV is jointly developed by Toyota and Tesla. That is a great example. But in the last 20 years, we have been developing multiple power sources, including pure electric vehicle, gas-based hybrid vehicle, and fuel cell. In case of fuel cell, we spent more than 20 years to realize our dream. But we came up with the idea that for short time travel, like a city within the city, EV may have a good advantage.
A battery-powered vehicle?
Battery-powered EV. But for long distance travel, since practical cruising distance of battery-powered electric vehicle is very limited, maybe 150 miles or less than 200 miles. Tesla has more, I know that. But most realistic practical solution is still gas-based hybrid vehicles. But in the next 10 or 20 years, we believe that fuel cell hydrogen vehicle will become more popular. And we haven't yet decided to the production volume of this vehicle, but sooner or later, we believe that people love fuel cell vehicles.
Okay, now one of the things that's so interesting about a hydrogen cell vehicle versus a battery vehicle. Even if you have a Tesla, you already know you have to charge it up for 9 hours overnight, or potentially go to one of these stations and try to do a supercharge real quick. It's still not quick. It takes a while. To fill up a hydrogen tank is 5 minutes. It's like
less than 5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes, and you can go 300 miles.
Yes.
Okay.
Practically.
The question, though, becomes, there is virtually no infrastructure at the moment in this country. There is no gas station that you can just drive into today, and this is the same problem that electric vehicles have to some degree, where you can be provided with hydrogen. How far off is that from a policy perspective? What has to happen to get it there?
Okay. At the beginning stage of introducing new technology, even battery-powered electric vehicles, we need to establish infrastructure to supply fuel to the vehicles. In our case, in our fuel cell vehicle case, we have been working with the government, like state of California, or some independent private companies, such as First Element Fuels. Mm-hmm. Working together with government agencies and other independent company who is interested in supplying hydrogen fuel, we are going to establish maybe 68 or 70 hydrogen stations in California first. And this number is researched by a research group of University of California, Irvine, with 68 hydrogen stations. It is enough number for supplying hydrogen to 10,000 fuel cell vehicles in that area. And maybe it may take 6 or 10 minutes for each driver to get to the station from their home or work. That is our first plan. We are going to establish infrastructure.
What's a safer technology? Batteries, hydrogen, traditional fuel sources? And the reason I ask is, in the context of Tesla, for example, we've seen and heard headlines about all sorts of fires related to batteries, and people get very anxious about that. People get very anxious about hydrogen. They think there could be, if the car was to be hit in a hydrogen tank, that would cause an explosion. And of course, gasoline by its nature is very flammable.
You know what? Hydrogen is very safe. Hydrogen itself is non-toxic. Actually, gasoline is more flammable than hydrogen, and hydrogen disperses very quickly. And talking about hydrogen tank, Toyota has been developing our own design using carbon fiber material, conducting many extreme tests for hydrogen tank to be protected in the case of crash. So many additional safety devices are already equipped with our fuel cell vehicles. So I could say safe.
Where do you stand on lithium-ion batteries?
I don't have an engineering background, so let me forgive me. This is my learning from my engineer. Battery technology requires another, level of innovation to become more effective. Lithium-ion battery has, better efficiency than traditional battery, but there was a small concern about their flammability in case there was a big crash. So I don't know exactly, but it was a concern.
Would you drive a vehicle with a lithium-ion battery in it right now?
I had a chance to drive, but I'm now driving gas, engines. I have big SUV in Michigan, so I'm not driving hybrid vehicle, but I used to.
Let me ask you about the economics of developing a next-generation vehicle like this fuel cell vehicle that you've just launched. This car, in the context of Japan, at least where it's going to be sold there, is going to cost something on the order of about $69,000. At least that's going to be the base price. how much money will you make or lose on that on each vehicle? Because I remember when you first launched the Prius 17 years ago, you were not making money on those cars.
Let me take this way. Instead of referring to the specific number, in case of Prius hybrid,
I had to try.
good try. In case of Prius, the Prius you see on the road is a third generation. Whenever we launch the new generation, we reduced the cost of hybrid system by half. So the cost of current generation hybrid vehicle is 1/8 of the original hybrid Prius. So we expect that, after introducing the next generation or the following generation, our engineers are capable enough to reduce such system cost.
Right. Should we as
so we can make money.
Should we as consumers be anxious about driving new generation vehicles on the road? And I ask that in the context both of what we've seen happen with GM very recently. Some of those vehicles were not new generation vehicles. Toyota had its own recall experience. You are in charge of manufacturing, so you know this so well. When you see something, I'll ask it in two ways. One is on the new generation. Also, when you look at what's happened at GM and in your own experience, how do you, as somebody who works at a company who oversees all of this stuff, think about that?
Okay, let me answer to your first question related to the. I would like to show you another video after making some few words. Toyota has been developing not only conventional cars but also new powertrain like a hybrid or a fuel cell, even including EV. One of the area we have been working so hard is developing personal mobility for the people who requires a very compact, easy to drive, method. So I'd like to show you another video which is related to our ultra compact electric vehicle, which is called iRoad. Alex?
Toyota is currently developing a system which integrates personal vehicles and public transport in order to provide a city and its inhabitants with the most comfortable transportation experience possible, Hamo. There are two main features to this system: a multimodal navigation system with the capability to incorporate many forms of transport into one route, and a mobility network of ultra-compact electric vehicles for traveling short distances within the city when needed. Hamo will inform you of traffic congestion before you leave, and through its smartphone application will recommend a better route to avoid traffic jams. Hamo recommends routes based on a multimodal network of transport systems, including a Hamo Ride, car-sharing network of ultra-compact electric vehicles suitable for moving freely within the city. This new type of service is designed to take you short distances from the station to your desired destination or moving around among parking stations. Its small size also means less parking space is needed. Reservations can be made with ease from Hamo's application, making picking up your Hamo Ride at the station smooth and seamless. You can then leave the vehicle at any of the many parking stations, allowing you to take advantage of this free-flowing network anytime, anywhere.
So this is a video which shows, thank you, our project. Actually, early this morning, Toyota announced our joint project in the city of Grenoble, France. Toyota will work with EDF, which is electric power company, and Cité Libre, which is a car sharing company, to develop a new car sharing project utilizing our battery powered ultra compact EV, which is iRoad. We provide 70 iRoads, and the purpose of this project is providing our customers for the last mile transportation from public transportation station or bus stop to the office or to the shopping center. So we are so excited to announce this type of new project. And on top of that, Toyota has been developing robotics because one of our mission is leading the road for the future mobility, which includes helping people who currently do not have any mobility. Right. So there's one example of robotics. Alex, can you show the picture of our walk assist?
Okay. After this, we're going to come back.
You can see the small pieces on his right knee. This is actually a robot with power unit on the back. So the person who has some problem with lower limbs can use these machines for walking. So this is one of the examples of our robotics technology. We also developed much bigger robot to lift the patient from the bed to another bed. So Toyota is also involved in developing rehabilitation or medicational support robotics.
Okay, I have about 1 million questions about that and the, and the other video that we saw, but I apologize because we have to go back to where we started before we got there, which was that I asked you about GM. And I'm going to push you on this, and I apologize to do it, but I feel like the audience deserves an answer on that question, which is you worked at a company that had its own recall. GM has had its own issues, but you were in the middle, the thick of these types of things, and I really did want to get your perspective on that before we got to some of these other things.
Thank you for asking. Actually, this is not the expected question, so I don't use my memo. It was 4 years ago, just 1 week before our president Akio Toyoda testified in Washington, D.C., I was a plant manager in Japan. But Akio Toyoda called me into his office. Just 1 week before that, I became assistant to him. So since then, I'm very honored and very, I should say, happy to work with our top management to improve many things. So one of the things I can share with you and other members is we found that our internal communication and external communication needed to be improved for us to react quickly or for us to proactively introduce better ways of doing business. So communication is the key.
Okay, I'm sorry to push you on that, but I did want to get an answer to it, and I know we had these videos, and I wanted to get to them too. Let me ask you about the first video we saw, these smaller cars that work in an almost Uber-like way, in that you're going to get into a real that's car sharing or ride sharing in the future. When you think of Toyota and frankly all automobile companies in the future, are you going to produce more or less cars? And the reason I ask is we're seeing, actually in the United States, fuel consumption is actually going down, not up. Mm-hmm. And if you believe that we are all going to have Uber at our fingertips, or your service or others, and I don't know if they will ultimately interact, mm-hmm. clearly we will need less cars. Am I wrong?
Maybe you're right. Because people may not have to own his or her own car if this type of service is available in big cities.
And so, how realistic do you think that is?
It is quite realistic in big cities, which has well-developed public transportation. But in rural area, people need to drive.
So where could, I mean, if we, again, let's go 10 years out, mm-hmm. where would you imagine, I mean, give me a city or two cities where you think that this could get rolled out in a meaningful way? And would it require subsidies, by the way, from a municipality to do it?
I'm sorry, I don't know exactly in the case of the city of Grenoble. Mm-hmm. But when we use battery-powered electric vehicle, the manufacturing cost is much less than that of futuristic advanced technology. So subsidy may not be required.
Right.
Did I get it wrong?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
Let's talk about autonomous vehicles for a moment. or semi-autonomous vehicles. There's been lots of questions about what a semi-autonomous or autonomous vehicle looks like. Already so many people in this room, I imagine, have vehicles, Toyotas and otherwise, that will alert you if you're going out of the lane, or if you're getting too close to the car in front of you, or if you're backing up and you're about to, unfortunately, hit a car or something else behind you. You've also seen Google come out with cars that are supposed to be fully autonomous. Recently, Google shifted the way they're approaching autonomous vehicles. They've actually taken the steering wheel completely out of the car. So you will sit there with no steering wheel at all, and I imagine that you have to, at some degree, pray that this car is going to go in the right direction. 10 years from now, are cars going to have steering wheels?
I think so. Because drivers want to control the cars. Let me tell you one story, which is a very personal story. I'm sorry about that. My father is 86 years old. He is still driving his car. So I used to purchase a car and give it to him, but I decided to take the car because, when people become older, the reaction time when something happens is getting slower and slower. And in Japan, there are many pedestrians, bikes on the road. It is very scary to me, letting my father still driving. So I decided to take his car, and I gave him a special credit card issued by taxi cab company. So fee is automatically charged to my bank account, but money is not the issue for him. He would like to drive a car. So in such case, advanced technology which helps driver pay more attention to some hidden things, keys, bikes, backside, is very necessary for this type of person. So I don't think people would give up having a steering wheel in next 10 years.
Here's a behavioral science question, and it's really about how we all behave. The more advanced the technology becomes, the more we get a ringing sound when we're going out of the lane, or something's alerting us, or even the car slowing down. An argument could be made, and I don't know what you've seen, that the driver actually becomes less focused and more distracted rather than the opposite way around. What have you seen?
We believe that by providing driver with advanced technology, it is very helpful for driver to have better safety driving skill. It doesn't automatically mean drivers become lazy, less focused, because Toyota has been focusing on developing advanced technology to identify safety-related concerns. So, another factor is Toyota's policy of developing autonomous vehicle is developing teammate for the driver, not replacing the driver. That is our philosophy.
You do have a video, and I would like to show it, that talks about autonomous vehicles. And why don't we play that now so you can see a little bit about what we're talking about, and we'll come back out in a moment.
Probably fair to say that for most people, the term autonomous is synonymous with driverless. Instead, we believe that in our pursuit of developing more advanced automated technologies, the driver must be fully engaged in the operation of the vehicle at all times. Our advanced safety research vehicle is aimed at enhancing the car and the driver's ability to perceive, process, and respond. At the moment, this is a pure research project with a strong statement of the shape of things to come. Sensor and by-wire technologies have opened the door for machines to recognize and respond to the environment around them, beyond even the capabilities of humans. However, sensing what's around you versus understanding it is vastly different. So we must combine the judgment of humans with the precision of machines, and that takes time. Right now, machines can handle simple tasks like parking, following traffic, and staying in a lane. Step by step, we will build trust with society and governments so that vehicles will be allowed to perform more automated tasks.
What do you think is going to happen to car insurance companies in the future?
Is there any insurance company represented here? No? Oh,
Yes? They might be interested in an answer.
his opinion.
You want to ask his opinion? Maybe we will in just a moment. But
yeah, it is quite difficult for, us to decide responsibility in case accident happens. So under current law, I believe that driver is still responsible for everything, even he or she drives autonomous vehicle. But I'm sure that some customers may sue us. And I know in such case, what kind of policy can we ask insurance companies? It should be covered by insurance company. Financially could be covered, but legally, it's very difficult.
how much stuff should the driver be allowed to do in the vehicle? And there are studies that suggest simply being on the phone, even on a headset or speakerphone while you're driving, is almost the equivalent of driving drunk.
I don't think Toyota has all answers to this type of questions. So we decided to be, collaborative with the people who have any different idea or better or new ideas. Actually, we have established collaborative safety research center in our technical center in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Again, I would like to show you another video about our collaborative safety research center, if I could.
Go for it.
Thank you.
For those of you who are not familiar with the Collaborative Safety Research Center, it's a unique research model developed by Toyota that includes 26 projects with 16 universities and research hospitals. At the CSRC, we're focused on how to better protect people in crashes and how we can help prevent collisions from happening in the first place. We also believe the importance of openly sharing our findings as widely as possible. For the last 100 years, the car has played the role of a functional tool, responding to our human needs and input. That relationship has changed forever. We are now capable of creating a true interrelationship between the driver and an intelligent vehicle, and it will have profound effect on saving lives on the highway. Today, I want you to start thinking of the car and the driver as teammates.
So what does that mean? If you do go check out these cars that they have just outside here, you can see sort of a next generation car. It is powered in part by Microsoft technology. It has a Kinect in it. The Kinect, I don't know, for those of you who play games, the Kinect actually looks at you and can figure out whether the passenger is touching the radio dial or the driver is. And as a result, actually, for those of you who use Waze or something like that, where they tell you you're the passenger, are you they ask you if you're the passenger first. This thing can figure out if you really are the passenger. When you talk about this idea of collaboration, what type of role do you imagine the passenger actually plays in all of this?
At this moment, when you are driving, you can't control your navigation system.
Right.
But you may disappoint, your family members if one of your family members would like to find a new restaurant or some places while you are driving. So it may be a good idea for us to develop some secured system enabling other occupants to control some system within your car. For instance, we are displaying a new concept vehicle, which is DARV, D-A-R-V. DARV stands for Driver Awareness Research Vehicle. It uses technologies of improving, again, teamwork within a car. So I'd like to recommend you to go to our display booth.
Before we open it to questions, I just have one final question, and it relates to the, we saw this video with the robots, or not, well, you guys are doing some robotic work as well, but also we saw this device on somebody's leg. And I don't know if you saw earlier this week a remarkable company called Rewalk, which makes an exoskeleton for paraplegics, which actually allows paraplegics to walk fully. In fairness to you, I believe it's beyond even the technology that Toyota's developed thus far. It's a $69,000 product. You wear a backpack, and you can, somebody who really can't walk can in a very, very meaningful way. And it's an amazing thing, and there's a number of other people in this space, including Toyota. But one of the questions I have just as, and I might have this question if I was a shareholder of Toyota, I might have this question just as a curious observer. What is an automobile company doing in this business?
Because one of the mission or visions, we have is, providing people with mobility. So mobility means not only just in automobiles, but also any personal, mobility and robotics. Because people who have some, problem with, legs or arms have been facing a very, difficult time not to having a.
But does that put you into the medical field?
Both medical field and some, ordinary, life, they could use our, robotics, replacing some wheelchairs or.
Do pieces of that technology end up in the vehicles, or do the pieces of the technology in the vehicles end up completely and separately?
It may be separated from the vehicle itself.
Right. Simon, thank you for this. I would love to open it up for questions. I hope and imagine there will be many. And by the way, I don't know if the guys from Allstate want to. Are you guys from Allstate? They're a sponsor here, so we should try to get them involved in the conversation. But I do see a hand up in the cheap seats in the back, so we'll go to you. I think there's mics.
Thank you for your time. Very nice presentation. I have a question concerning the hydrogen technology. With both electric vehicles and hybrid, they didn't take advantage of, or one of the complications of those applications or technology was the wide temperature range that we have in North America. There's areas, including here where we stay in Aspen, where it gets well below zero, north central US, many urban populations, down to -40 Fahrenheit. With hybrid vehicles, in essence, they became gasoline vehicles. Likewise, at high temperature, when you're running an air conditioner, et cetera. Can you explain if hybrid or fuel cell technology offers a wider temperature range of operation that may be more conducive for a much wider population than just Southern California?
Answer is yes. You're talking about cold temperature. Fuel cell technology has much better coverage comparing to battery-powered electric vehicle. And talking about the heating system, if you need air conditioning or heating, it requires a lot of electric energy in case of a hybrid and battery-powered vehicle. But fuel cells generate some heat, some energy. So we can fully utilize that heat for heating purpose. So performance from the viewpoint of efficient use of electricity, fuel cell is much, much, much better.
It's just occurring to me, by the way, you do live in Michigan. Is the reason that you don't have a hybrid of some sort with a battery power because of the...
I just need a big, strong 4x4 SUV. That is the reason.
But for those people
we do have hybrid SUV. So
for people in this audience who live in a cold climate, or at least a climate where it gets cold, do you recommend that they not buy vehicles that have batteries in them? Given the temperatures.
Battery electric vehicle is also fine, but if you use a heating system, it may eat a lot of electricity, so you need to recharge again frequently. That is a problem.
Okay. Question in the middle right here. I'll repeat your question. Go ahead.
Okay. When do you see the first autonomous vehicle going on sale to the public in the United States?
When do you see the first autonomous? And just to define it, you mean first fully autonomous, you're sitting there and it just goes?
Fully autonomous. You could choose a hybrid mode, but fundamentally fully autonomous.
I don't know. I need to ask Google or Nissan. You know what? But Toyota is going to introduce more advanced technologies which helps driver have much safer driving experience. Every model by model, we are going to introduce advanced safety technologies. So you will be happy.
I think we have another question in the back there. You have a mic, so if you could just hand it to that gentleman, and then we'll come back around.
Yes, regarding the hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, one of the fundamental issues you haven't mentioned is the source of hydrogen. Hydrogen is an energy carrier, just like electricity is an energy carrier, and it has to be generated excuse me, from some natural energy resource. How do you see that hydrogen being generated, and what are the economics of it?
Hydrogen can be produced through the manufacturing process of like a fertilizer or a steel making process, or converting natural gas to gasoline process. I don't know the English name. So there are many options for us to get hydrogen from existing industrial processes. And another chance is by utilizing new renewable energy, renewable power like solar or wind power. From water, we can get hydrogen. So there are many options, but the issue is whether or not this is commercially feasible. So this is kind of chicken or egg type of discussion. But we believe that by working together with related industries or government agencies, in the next 10 or 20 years, we could have a much better picture.
Can I just, before we get to the audience, from a policy perspective, and you saw what happened in Japan. In Japan, literally a week ago, there was, I don't know if it's fully baked yet, but there's going to be a huge push by the government to provide subsidies and other things to really spur the innovation and things that you're trying to do with the hydrogen fuel cell. Strictly on as a market-based solution, is it possible that the innovation and inventions that you're creating could work on their own without government help from an economic perspective?
Some technologies can be introduced without having any support from the government. But since hydrogen technology is very innovative technology, which requires new business model, especially in the infrastructure area, we appreciate understanding of the government or related industries or consumers to allow us to get some kind of support from the government.
Okay. I think we had a question right there. Yes, sir.
Why couldn't Toyota, which has dealerships throughout the U.S. and every major city, put hydrogen fueling stations at their dealerships where they already own or control the land?
I think that is an idea we need to, fully investigate. And actually, I have a executive from Toyota Motor Sales. I would let Chris consider that kind of options. So, did I take one way?
Excuse me?
I don't know. Did I misinterpret his question?
No, I think you appreciate his question. Chris, hey, you're sitting right there. Do you want to chime in?
Sure. Actually, if it had been a Lexus product, that probably would have been an original idea. Our Lexus dealers are very interested in supplying hydrogen. But when you look at a variety of manufacturers buying hydrogen, it's probably better to have a hydrogen station off a dealership in a more convenient place. So the business model is what is the most ideal place for all the owners to find their fuel. We'd like to be within 3 or 4 minutes away from anyone who has a fuel cell. And we think we only need about 15% of the fueling stations that currently you have for gasoline because it goes so far and it's very efficient.
Hey, Chris, while we have you, one of the things I think it's Hyundai or one of your rivals is doing with hydrogen fuel is that when you buy the vehicle, you're also getting effectively a gas card, I think for 3 or 4 years. So they're effectively putting the cost of fueling that car into the base price. Could you imagine Toyota and other companies doing that in the future?
Yeah, that's part of a good business model because starting up the infrastructure, there aren't enough vehicles on the road really to develop the revenues for these stations. So we almost are doing a hydrogen purchase in a way by providing 3 years in case of Hyundai, let's say, for the free fuel with the vehicle. We try to get these station operators through that early part of their business model where they have the most impact. So in our case, we're actually sponsoring 18 stations in California with First Element. So it's the first time Toyota's really gotten into the infrastructure support business to try to be a catalyst to get this process going.
Okay. I think we had a couple more questions. Yes, sir, in the middle. We got a microphone. We'll get you one.
I have a very loud voice. You mentioned that Microsoft was a partner. Who else are you partnering with to, for the next decade on the electronics of your cars?
We have, several, partners with whom we will be working together. Google is another example. Apple is another example. Salesforce.com. There are many companies we would like to work with.
So are you agnostic? I mean, is it the kind, the vehicle that you'll see if you go outside is decked out in Microsoft products. If I had an iPhone and soon to be iWatch or whatever it is, would my devices interact with it in the same way?
I think, from the customer use point of view, either, Android or Apple, either Microsoft or Apple, we should be able to provide our customers with both ways, either ways.
A couple more questions. Yes, sir, in the middle.
So I know this session is about sort of the car paradigm and improvements we're making in terms of efficiency. But I have a question about, is there a different paradigm out there anywhere? So we now drive on one-dimensional roads, which is sometimes highly inefficient geometrically, and thousands of pounds, of vehicles with, different metals and plastics in them, and have just ripped up a lot of the landscape with highways and parking garages and parking. Is there another paradigm for mobility that that's non-car paradigm for getting around?
Talking about mobility itself, there is one area which is called flying car.
Sebastian Thurn, who's here, has a view on that as well.
So we have several members who have been investigating possibility of developing flying car, but I don't know how long does it take for us to realize such a dream. But this generates, more controversial issues than autonomous vehicles.
That it does. That it does.
You need to get a pilot license to drive flying car.
We have one question over here. We also have one in the back as well. So maybe go ahead, sir.
Yesterday at the
there's a microphone coming to you.
Yesterday under the tent, I don't know if you were there yesterday. We were shown an interesting example of innovation by Kitty Boone of a soccer ball that gets kicked around and it creates enough electromagnetic impulses that after being kicked around for half an hour, it then can power an electric lamp or other charging station for a home in the third world country. I'm just curious to know, have you guys ever experimented with something like that whereby you use the friction of the roadbed, the roadways themselves to create electromagnetic current that would be then sent back into the car, and that the car would then, so that the roadway becomes the fuel source in a sense in interacting with the car?
I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly, but there are some researches in automotive industry to get some energy from
the friction on the road.
Frictional.
But that's not, you're not working on anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. It's a good question. I think above both of our pay grades. In the back.
Do you foresee the sales of hydrogen EV cars cannibalizing your other sales of hybrids?
Do you see sales of the new vehicles cannibalizing the old vehicles?
I don't think so, because as I mentioned before, gas-powered hybrid is most reliable and realistic solution for current use, and hydrogen vehicles requires maybe another decade or 2 decades to become more popular, right. And battery technology requires another round of innovation for them to improve, cruising distance. So,
right. Can I a little Socratic method? Can I actually ask the Allstate guys on the insurance? I don't know if I can do that to you. There is a Socrates program here at the Aspen Institute that happens after the institute every year. Do you have a view on what all this new technology will ultimately do to how you price insurance and to the degree that the product continues to exist?
Well, I'd like to go back to this question here about when will the first autonomous car hit the road. I think it does relate to the insurance question. That certainly for that car to drive on the road, that motorist needs to be protected, not only from what might happen from the technology in that car, but from what other motorists next to that car might do. And so we think there will be a fundamental shift in how insurance products are brought to market and how one buys them. So if you think today that when a person buys a new car, they contact an insurance company and they insure that car. But now with these technologies which will have such a dramatic impact on the performance of that car, there'll need to be a third party involved in that discussion, that being the car manufacturer, to certify that those systems are functioning properly. But it's not only at that moment the car drives off the lot that those systems need to function properly. It needs to be maintained over time, such that 5 years after that car has left that lot, are those systems that are still lane keeping and so on functioning properly. That could even in turn bring a dealer or some sort of post-manufacturer entity into the equation as well. So when we look at this autonomous car, we're as excited as anyone else is about paving the way for that transition and recognize that insurance companies do play a role in that. The impact on pricing is hard for me to predict what that will be. Certainly we foresee a future where, thanks to the safety features brought into the car, there will be fewer accidents. And we think that that will relate to kind of a lower overall pool of premiums, if you will. Right. But how that all balances out isn't really something that we have a clear perspective on.
While we have you here, the tracking of vehicles. We've seen Progressive. I don't know if you have a product that's similar.
Yes.
To some degree, insurance companies are now tracking drivers who want to be tracked. In fact, in the Toyota vehicle, I don't know if you've hooked up with an insurance company, but there's actually a technology which you can see outside where the car will actually monitor the drive. And if you're a parent, for example, you can take those keys away later because you can see literally from a score of how somebody is driving. Do you imagine that everybody in this room ultimately is going to be tracked by a company like yours? And what does that mean?
Well, I think that certainly the capabilities will exist should the motorists choose to do so. And it will be up to them to make that decision. Certainly already today, a good number of motorists choose to do so, and they get a discount on their insurance if they are found to be in that pool where they're a safer driver.
But doesn't it ultimately upset the economics of an insurance company? Because you're insuring an entire pool, all of whom you have to make some baseline judgments about how good or bad a driver they are. If you discover that there are some horrible drivers out there simply by tracking them, those people will either be uninsurable or will cost them too much to drive. Yeah. And those who are the safest in the world won't be paying you.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the art of being an insurance company, is discovering what's the right pricing for that motorist. And we'd like to think that with more and more information, we can get a closer and closer fit to the right pricing for that motorist. I think we're still at the early stages of that information really coming to full use. So for instance, the information collected right now isn't going to determine exactly what roads are being driven at what time of the day, under what weather conditions and what traffic conditions. You can imagine all those being an important input to determining the riskiness of that drive or that driver. But that information really isn't being captured in mass and hasn't been analyzed to a degree that's been fit into that risk profile.
Okay, I think we got about, go ahead, please.
Comment
yes, please.
back to him?
Mm-hmm.
I have one comment for you. You know, in the next decades or 2 decades, automotive transportation will become much safer by introducing advanced safety technology. Number of traffic accidents, number of fatalities should be reduced. That's kind of, you know, big wave is coming to the industry.
Yeah, we hope so.
We got about 2 minutes left. Let's see if we can sneak in a last question or two if anyone's got a hand. Otherwise, we can leave the conversation where it is. We have one hand up here in the front. We'll make this the finale.
I have a question about safety with these smaller vehicles. I'd be a little afraid of driving in that Homo electric vehicle because I feel like I'm a little exposed. It's so small, you know, around me. Similarly, I'm a little afraid of getting into a small, you know, gasoline car, and maybe even a Prius. I'd be afraid of being in an accident with you in your big SUV. So, so how do you deal with that, you know, as these newer, smaller vehicles come out over time?
The question relates to some of the smaller vehicles, including some of the newer vehicles that we just showed in terms of the video,
yeah, in the city area.
And how comfortable as a driver you should feel or not feel in a vehicle like that, knowing that there are big SUVs like you have in Michigan or the Suburban that I occasionally go around in.
Thank you for raising that point. It is quite important for, you know, all drivers or the pedestrians to have such kind of a mix. Small personal mobility versus big SUV. So we need to discuss on what is the best, you know, transportation method in some urban areas where most of transportation are happening. So we need to have some industry-wide discussion with government authorities when these personal mobility is commercially available.
And do you find, I mean...
And through this type of project, like city of Grenoble or another city in Japan, we will be investigating pros and cons of introducing such ultra-compact personal mobility in big cities. That's a very important area. We need to develop answers.
Thank you for the conversation. Simon Nagata, everybody from Toyota.
Thank you for the patience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you for the questions.